Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We are on ayah number 246. Let us continue بحول الله وقوته. قال الله تعالى: ألم ترى إلى الملأ من بني إسرائيل من بعد موسى إذ قالوا لنبي له مبعث لنا ملكا نقاتل في سبيل الله قال هل عصيتم إن كتب عليكم القتال ألا تقاتلوا قالوا وما لنا ألا نقاتل في سبيل الله وقد أخرجنا من ديارنا وأبنائنا فلما كتب عليهم القتال تولوا إلا قليلا منهم والله عليم بالظالمين. So in this ayah we are still on the theme of fighting in the way of Allah, carrying on from the previous few ayat. In this ayah, Allah Jalla wa Ala is speaking of a particular episode that happened amongst the Banu Israel. He begins the ayah by saying Alam Tara. Normally this means did you not see, but just as in the previous ayah about the thousands of people escaping death, it really means have you not considered. So not seen as in visually seen, but seen in your thoughts, as in to say consider something. So what did you consider? Al-Mala, which means the chiefs or the leaders. One might say this is a strange word to refer to chiefs or leaders. Normally mala'a, yamla'u, means to fill something. And the connection is that the chiefs or the leaders, they fill the hearts of their followers in respect and fear. This word mala' is a plural and it does not have a singular version, such as the word rahat, which means a group of people. This word has no singular, such as the word ma'shar, which means a group, again, has no singular, such as the word nafar, which again means a group, and it has no singular. Min ba'di Musa, after Musa. So this would be after his time, and another prophet is in charge of them, who said to their prophet, Ib'ath, meaning send forth for us. Allah, for example, sends messengers. This is ba'atha. Other people can also send envoys. So bi'atha means an envoy. So send for us a malikan. Normally malik means king, but here it means an amir, a leader who will organize our affairs. Because when you fight, you cannot just have individual people fighting on their own accord. This is anarchy. What you need is an organized army. And organization means you need to have a leader. He said to them, Hal asaytum. Now asa is a verb which does not have a present tense. It is a fi'l jamid. It means perhaps, but here it is used in the context of fear. He's saying, I fear that if fighting is prescribed for you, you will become cowards and not fight, meaning you will just cop out. They reply by saying, why should we not fight in Allah's way when we have been driven out of our diyar, our homes, wa abna'ina, and our children, meaning to say their children have been taken as captives. But the ayah says when the fighting was ordained for them, tawallaw, they turned away, except a few of them. It has been said that the number who did fight was 313, which incidentally is the same as the Battle of Badr from the Muslimin. And Allah knows best, but the point is only a few fought. And Allah is alim, knowledgeable of the zalimin, the wrongdoers. Okay, so it should not be a surprise that Allah is speaking about a particular event. Do we have any details of this particular event? Mujahid, the famous mufassir, has a kalam on this ayah. He says that the prophet mentioned in the ayah is Shamwil, or Samuel in English. He is a prophet of Banu Israel who came after Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. When the Banu Israel would commit sin, Allah Jalla wa Ala would allow their enemies to overpower them as punishment in this world. Their enemies captured a great number of them and captured their land as well. Wahab ibn Munabbih, another mufassir, says that when the Banu Israel had the Torah and the tablet which was given to Musa alayhi salam, they used to win their battles because they were upon guidance. However, when they indulged in sin and misguidance, there came a king who defeated them and took the Torah away from them. And only a few of the Banu Israel who had memorized it remained. He says that the prophethood ceased to exist for a time until a woman from the offspring of Lavi or Levi gave birth to a prophet. Her husband had been killed, so the Banu Israel kept her in a house so that she could give birth to a prophet. This woman also kept making dua to Allah Jalla wa Ala to grant her a son who will be a prophet. So Allah Jalla wa Ala answered her dua, and she gave birth to a prophet called Shamwil, which in Hebrew they say means Allah has heard my plea. It has also been said that the name of the prophet was Sham'un. In English it would be Simeon, and they say this also has a similar meaning. So anyway, according to this tafsir, it was either Shamwil or Sham'un. And this prophet, as expected, called the Banu Israel to Tawheed, and the people asked this prophet, either Shamwil or Sham'un, to appoint for them a military ruler. And the ayah says that Allah is Alimun bil-Zalimin, He knows the wrongdoers. In other words, He will requite them for their deeds. Just a quick linguistic point, it says Nuqatil fi sabilillah, which is majzoom bis-sukun. Why is this? It's because it is the Jawabul Amr. The Amr, the order form is Ib'ath, send, and its Jawab, the answer to the Amr, is Nuqatil, and the Jawabul Amr is majzoom. So let's reflect on this ayah. He says Alam Tara, so he wants us to reflect and consider this matter. And so we find the importance of reflection and considering the state of those who were in the past, both their mistakes and their righteous actions. We take a vital lesson that if you are going to fight the enemy, fi sabilillah, then you need to be organized. And there needs to be a military chain of command, just like contemporary armies have today. What you should not be doing is forming your own little groups and fighting. That is no good. And today many Muslimin, particularly the youth, need to pay attention to this point, because it is a mistake that they are falling into, and it will cost them dearly. We find the status of a prophet is higher than that of a military leader, because the prophet appoints the leader. We find also from the words fi sabilillah that any time you enter into a military conflict, it needs to be for the sake of Allah. It cannot be for nationalism or for personal gains or some sort of land grab and these types of motivations. We find from this ayah the human nature to fight those who have wronged you, because here the Banu Israel were driven out of their homes and their children were captured as slaves. So why would they not want to fight their oppressors? We find from this ayah to have tawakkul on Allah Jalla wa Ala and not to get overconfident. Do you notice how they wanted to fight? And when it was actually ordained on them, most of them fled out of cowardice. So the lesson is, do not rely on your own self and on your own skills. Rather have your reliance on Allah and ask Him to keep your feet firm in battle and keep yourself humble. Because you do not know, today you're feeling on top of the world, like you can beat anyone. But when push comes to actual shove and the enemy is staring at you, you have no idea how you might react. So the lesson is to keep yourself humble and rely upon Allah Jalla wa Ala. You can absolutely be confident. That is a good thing. But overconfidence is negative. And underestimating your enemy produces negative results. That's why the Prophet ﷺ told us, لا تتمنوا لقاء العدو. Do not hope for the meeting of the enemy. You should always try to avoid fights wherever you can. And he says, وَاسْأَلُ اللَّهَ الْعَافِيَةِ. Ask Allah for safety. He says, فَإِذَا لَقِيتُمُوهُمْ. But if you meet them, فَاصْبِرُوا. Then keep patient, وَاعْلَمُوا. And know, أَنَّ الْجَنَّةَ. That Jannah, تَحْتَ ظِلَالِ السُّيُوفِ. Is under the shades of the swords. It's a similar case with the hadith of Ad-Dajjal. The Prophet said, whoever hears of him, do not confront him, because a man will go out to confront Ad-Dajjal and will return as his follower. And similarly, we find many people taking a vow to do such and such, but when it comes to actually fulfilling the vow, they are unable to do it. So they can talk the talk, but not walk the walk. So the point is to keep yourself humble and do not go around making promises you cannot keep and writing out checks that you cannot cash. We take from this ayah that leaving off an obligation is dhulm, because the obligation was to fight and they left it off. This is oppression. Of course, oppression to your own selves, not to Allah. And we find that no dhulm goes unnoticed. Ayah 247, وَقَالَ لَهُمْ نَبِيُّهُمْ إن الله قد بعث لكم طالوت ملكا قالوا أنى يكون له الملك علينا ونحن أحق بالملك منه ولم يؤت سعة من المال قال إن الله اصطفاه عليكم وزاده بسطة في العلم والجسم والله يؤتي ملكه من يشاء والله واسع عليم. So continuing on from the last ayah, the Prophet says that Allah has sent for you Talut, which in English is Saul. Now this man Talut was a soldier. However, the rest of the Banu Israel had a problem with him. He was not from the descendants of the king lineage. And so this is the reason why they said, how can he have the authority over us when we have more right than him? And another reason for their objection was that he has not been given much wealth, so he's a poor person. It has been said, and Allah knows best, that Talut's profession was to bring water to people, and others said that he used to dye skins with different colors. It was a fairly low status job. In any case, he was poor. That's what we can say. Now the answer that the Prophet gives is that Allah has chosen him over you. Now this is reason enough. The gold standard by which we measure everything is what Allah Jalla wa'ala decrees. Our intellects and our customs and social norms are not the gold standard. وَزَادَهُ بَسْطَةً فِي الْعِلْمِ وَالْجِسْمِ And he has increased him, bastatan meaning abundantly, in knowledge and in his physique. So this means to say that he has much knowledge. He has knowledge of warfare. Your military leader needs to be a type of person who knows how to attack, when not to attack, and he's able to make decisions. You need knowledge and experience for this, and Talut has it more than anyone else. Also, he's physically strong. He's of a good physique, which is of course important in warfare. You cannot be a soldier if you are just a couch potato, or if you do not have sufficient muscle. Now what has been mentioned here is that Talut was from the offspring of Binyamin. Binyamin, you may recognize this name, he was the full brother of Yusuf alayhi salam. Now this lineage did not have any prophets nor any rulers. The prophethood came from the lineage of a man called Lawi, or Levi in English. Lawi was one of the sons of Yaqub alayhi salam. As for being a king and a political ruler, this was from the lineage of Yahuda, or Judah in English. The Prophet told them that Allah gives his mulk, his dominion, to whomsoever he wills. In other words, Allah Jalla wa'ala is the one who appoints the prophets. He is the one who appoints the kings and rulers. It is down to him. It is not down to the Prophet. So the Prophet is not acting on his own whim. And he says Allah is wasi', which means expansive. He's expansive in his grace and his knowledge and his power and his mercy and all qualities that he has. He is expansive. He's not limited. And Alim, he knows all things, past, present and future, and also propositional knowledge. If such and such happens, what would ensue? So reflecting on this ayah, notice that in this ayah and in the last one, the Quran is talking about Banu Israel. Of course, Surah Al-Baqarah spoke much about Banu Israel earlier on, and it is exposing these episodes of Banu Israel to the Arab, even though the Arab had nothing to do with Banu Israel. If you are not Chinese and you know nothing about China or the language or the culture, and somebody starts to talk to you about ancient Chinese dynasties, would you take interest? The answer is no. You have nothing to do with China. You have no interest. It's a similar thing here. Why would the Arab ever take an interest in Banu Israel? Well, the point is they did not until the Quran came along. And the Quran spoke much about Banu Israel because the Sahaba, who are obviously from the Arab, the majority of them, needed to know about prophets because aforetime the Arab did not really have a concept of prophethood. They were oblivious to it. So you need to know how to behave with a prophet, the things you should do and that which you should not do, such as arguing with the prophet as in this ayah. This is a no-no. Notice the etiquettes of this prophet, Shamwil, or Sham'un, depending, how he says that it is Allah who appoints the ruler, not I. And this is how the Muslim needs to be. Always give credit to Allah. Whenever you achieve anything, the credit goes to Allah Jalla wa'ala. We learn two vital qualities for a military leader, which is that he needs to be strong so that he can lead the army by example, and he must have knowledge so that he can make the correct military decisions, because the army will live or die in accordance with its decisions. We may also take that any ownership that man has is actually Allah's ownership. Why? Because Allah gave him that ownership. Because he says Allah gives his dominion to whomsoever he pleases. And we also take the two names of Allah, Wasi' and Alim. And this episode continues in the next track, inshaAllah ta'ala. Wallahu a'lam.